Hello and welcome to Let's Chill, the official, unofficial Minnesota Strike and Minnesota Ultimate podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jeff,
I'm Jay.
And I'm Kane.
and with us today we have Robyn Fennig. Robyn, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you on tonight. We have got a bunch of great questions. And I think we're just going to start with what we usually do on this podcast is what we call Stall 10. So we have a couple of trivia questions that we do, and you got 10 seconds to answer them. So I'll kick us off. I got a Stall 10 question that we'll just throw out to the group. Robyn, you're more than welcome to answer it, but I think you're going to know the answer pretty easily. But you're more than welcome to. So the question is, in 2018, Robyn had played on an AUDL team. And the question is, what team did she play for?
2018, you said?
Yep.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Where did you live 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
I lived in Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay. Radicals, boom, done, easy.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Radicals because I was like, I remember reading like up on before the interview, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was Madison, but
It was indeed.
nice.
It
Interesting.
may have been tricky because I had my married last name, so that I think people forget that I was that also that Robyn. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Nice. Jay, you have one?
Yeah, I do. All right, I want to direct this one actually at Kane because we were poking some fun reading articles earlier today. Kane, Jeff recently wrote an article, the 5 strike players to watch in 2023. Kane, who is the second player Jeff mentioned in that article?
All right, full disclosure, have not read it yet.
I don't even know that answer. I don't know the order I put
It was
in.
Robyn, obviously.
No, it was not.
I was really hoping.
Robyn
was
was
it?
the first player I mentioned. I
It
don't remember
was
the second.
Jane Cook. That's Cook, the pronunciation of the last name.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
That name does sound familiar. Again, I haven't read the article, but I've seen the name, so I'll take partial credit. Half a point for Kane. You know what? I'm gonna send one right back to Jay then. I got a question. How many teams are in the Premier Ultimate League as of 2023?
I have no clue.
I'll give you a hint.
Let's-
It's the same amount of siblings that you have.
was it 12?
It's 12. Because the Philadelphia Surge got added this year.
I'm not gonna lie. I was gonna say 9. That was gonna be my guess without the hint.
Right. Well, let's just get into some questions then for Robyn. Like I said, we've got a lot of questions that we have, but then a lot of people on Instagram had sent in some questions, so that's just going to be like a whole segment in itself. Robyn, let's just start with an easy one. Tell us about like your ultimate experience, your background, how you got into the game, and where you are now.
Yeah, so I would say the first time that I was exposed to Ultimate was when I played collegiate fast pitch softball at the University of Wisconsin Eau Claire, and it was introduced as an alternative warm up activity. So we would run around in lieu of like doing like a normal like kind of conditioning part of practice before we would jump into stuff, and I think everyone would prefer that to whatever running we were doing. But as a catcher, I had to run around and play in my catching gear. So I didn't wear my helmet. It was just like the chest protector and the shin guards. So yeah, so I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when certain softball like pitchers learn certain pitches, they actually learn how to throw like variations of forehands. So the only people who could throw flick were our pitchers, and they weren't like normal flicks by any means, but they were flick like we'll say flick adjacent throws. But everyone else could like throw hammers and backhands. So that was kind of how we would play frisbee. And then I played intramurals my sophomore year and got recruited to come to a practice. I would say the team was like, you should come try it because they were trying to separate from the men's club team. And it was like a probationary team, if you will, like they were trying to start. And so they needed to get a few more players. I finally went to a practice at 6 a.m. in the spring semester and had a really good time. And here I am several years later. So I had to do the math. It's like what, like 14 or 15 years later. So
Oh yeah, and you've been playing for a long time. Like your ultimate resume just keeps getting longer and longer. I feel like it's pretty
Yeah,
cool to see. It's
I
hard to follow
guess.
sometimes.
Yeah. It's weird too because I like got married in the middle of it and then got divorced. So it's like if you're following along, there's like weird things that might be listed under one name and not the other, and vice versa. So you
Right.
really gotta like stalk me to know all of the entire story, I guess.
Pretty cool. Because I'm at University of Wisconsin River Falls right now,
Nice.
and I'm also on the club team here, and then play intramurals as well. And I have a couple of friends. I know a couple of people on the Eau Claire team. I had no clue that's where you like started playing. That's really cool, and that's like such a random way to get into the sport. I feel like everyone else we've
Yeah.
like interviewed or even I've like, talked to has gone into ultimate because someone was like, "Oh, let's go play frisbee." But that's super cool. I like that.
Yeah, I'll say my first intramural game, one of my first intramural games, my like dorm team was playing against like the team that had a bunch of people on the club team. So we were like playing zone offense, attempting to play zone offense. But like, I think intramural rules are a little bit different than like the USA Ultimate whatever edition. And so like there was a rule that rather than it being disc space, it had like the person had to be like an arm's length away from you. And that the call to do that was to say get back. So I kid you not, like I just like shoved this guy on the mark. I just shoved him, and he got back like in a disc space, like away. He just continued to do that, and me not knowing anything about like ultimate spirit of game, anything, I just like pivoted like a basketball, like I had a basketball, and I pivoted and hit him in the face. So and then went to school, like went to class, like it was like the first week of classes, and he was in one of my economics classes. So I got to meet someone at the club team because I hit him in the face and then had to go to class the next day and see him. So
That's amazing. That
yeah.
is
Okay. I have thoughts. They're really, yeah, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so you are playing for the Minnesota Strike this year. Um, One of our questions, but also a couple Instagram questions, is what made you decide to join the Strike this year instead of the Monarchs or another team in the PUL?
Well, so I moved to California, so I knew that there was going to be quite a bit of travel. I assumed that I had missed all of the WUL tryouts. So, like the Western Ultimate League is the women's and non-binary athlete focused league for the West, kind of the West Coast area. The Premier Ultimate League feels like it's more, east of the Rockies, if you will. And I knew I wanted to play on a pro team, but I wasn't necessarily sure which one. I went to the tryouts for Milwaukee Monarchs. I think I got really excited about the coaching staff also for the Strike. When the teams kind of, I think, found out their schedules, I had asked like for more information about like, hey, do you know how many road games you're going to play, how many home games, that kind of stuff. I feel like if I was looking at playing Milwaukee, I would have probably ended up flying into Chicago or something like that. But Milwaukee's road game schedule was really tough. They have 3 away games in Eastern Standard Time, and going from Pacific to Eastern Time is a little tough. And then 2 of those are divisional games. So those are really important. I think like as a rostered player, it's really important to be at all the divisional games if possible, because that's what determines whether a team makes it to the playoffs. And I wasn't going to play with any team if I wasn't going to be able to make most of, if not all of the divisional games. And the Strikes season schedule also aligned a lot better. It's a lot easier to get to Minnesota for all of the divisional games. And then there's the one kind of like road game in Madison at the end of our season, at the end of our regular season. So I also was pretty familiar with a lot of the players, having played against them between the women's division when I played for Heist and they played for Pop, or when I was in the mixed division playing with Noise and then playing against them on Dragon. There's also like a bunch of players on the Strike that I've had the opportunity to play with, and I really enjoy that. So there's a lot of really good factors. I had some meetings with the coaches and owners, and I think it was really easy for me to, like, if I went to the tryouts, had a really good time, they thought it was a fit, I could see that it would have been a good fit for me. So that's kind of how I got signed up for Strike this year. I'm really excited about the opportunity, honestly, to play on a team that I think kind of has all those big components that someone would look for in a professional ultimate experience. So
Yeah, when I was trying to do those 5 players to watch, like it was so hard to pick 5, and I almost bumped it to 7 or 10. But then I was like, well, then I'll just be the whole roster, which like is cool too. But I feel like every player on the roster has just this vast range of experience, and a lot of people played mixed. A lot of people played at like worlds and nationals, and like it's just really cool to see. How do you see the team like forming? Like, what do you expect to see this year? And can you give us a little preview of like what we can expect to see in the stands?
yeah, I think the coaches are very intentional about grouping the players in a line structure that kind of plays to each of the players' strengths. I don't think that's necessarily unique to Strike. I think that's what a good coaching squad's going to do. But really thinking about not just the roles that players play, but kind of the pace that they play, what kind of systems offensively and defensively they thrive in, and then kind of building lines that kind of align with that structure. So we have an O line who I think is, we're very fast paced. I think we have like really big aggressive cuts and throws, good aggressive disc movement, very assertive cutters, who are like really good in isolation. And then we also have like a flex line that plays, a faster pace, give go, very dynamic between handlers and cutters interchanging. And then we also have more of a traditional defensive line that is really like built on letting some creative throwers get to throw things really fast and transition out to space to people like, Jane Cook, who's a monster receiver, super fast, can run down anything, right? So I like that the coaches thought intentionally about how to put people in those roles and I think did a pretty good job of communicating that from the tryout process, and then also built the tryouts around finding people that fall into those structures. I also think that our coaches and our team in general is working a lot with the clock management side. I think that was something that I really appreciated playing in the AUDL. Like there was a really big emphasis on clock management, thinking strategically about timeouts, some of the rules, that kind of stuff that I didn't necessarily see in the PUL and WUL yet. And I think the coaches are really, based on some learning experiences last year, like I know Carlos coached last year. Pat's obviously new to the coaching squad this year, but I think they're doing a really effective job at incorporating that into our film studies, into our practice plans. I mean, it was incorporated into tryouts, and I feel like people are being pushed in that way. I really like to think about the rules in that way for the pro game, and so I've been really enjoying that aspect as well. And I think that our team will do a pretty good job of managing the clock. I'm expecting that, at least just because we are putting a lot of time and energy into that.
Interesting. That's a good little preview to look for. So kind of bouncing around a little bit, but you had kind of mentioned like playing in the PUL, the AUDL. You haven't played in the WUL. Is that correct?
No, I have not yet.
Okay. But with those 2 leagues, and then again with all of your experience playing on all these other teams and clubs and everything, like how do you see the game differing in these leagues, and like how do you see that, like I guess like what has been like your best experience with that? What do you prefer? What do you like from these leagues? What do you dislike?
Yeah, I think the professional game, because it's, players are only having to play one game, I think that they manage their bodies a lot differently than you would through a tournament where you're being asked to play 3 to 4 games a day across multiple days of competition. So I think that players really have the opportunity to like really go all out on every single play and every single point that they play. And there's more support around helping care for players on the sidelines and stuff like that, which is definitely not something that most teams are accustomed to in the club division or college division. I mean, that depends, largely on your club structure and some of the resources you have. I do feel like the single game play, like because it's timed, you're not playing to a prescribed point score, that everyone is going to play the same amount of minutes, if you will, in a game, that I think that also equalizes when there's a team, when you're preparing for your next game, you know that the team is going to feel very similar to you. The only difference might be whether they traveled or not, or whether you traveled or not. But you can you plan for the load. It's really easy to train and prepare because you know exactly the duration you're going to be playing, kind of the approximate number of points. And you can watch a lot of film, break down like how you need to break down your conditioning intervals to match, you know, the points, the duration of points that you're going to play and that kind of stuff. So I think it's a lot easier to train and prepare. And then it's also a lot easier to perform as an athlete when you only have to do it for one game. You also get a lot more time to prepare for a specific opponent. So your game plan can be a lot more solid in that regard. Whereas like with a tournament, you might know all of your pool play opponents and you might kind of guess which teams you're expecting to play in your crossover rounds or your bracket game and adjust kind of as you can on the fly. But there's so many other variables throughout an entire weekend that you can't necessarily do the same level of scouting and preparation as you do for, you know, a whole week or multiple weeks or even months, because we know our whole schedule right now. So we can start the preparation now. I've got a dog that's very happy apparently by something going on outside. But I think like as an athlete, I really do like the pro game. I will say probably my favorite experience though is any opportunity I get to play international ultimate, whether that's like a world championship level, whether it's a fun tournament like Windmill or Tom's tourney, or, you know, I think that there's so much to be learned from the way other teams and like structure their offenses and their, you know, it really challenges me to think about how do I value space? How do I want to use space on the field? You know, what types of structures I might thrive in or prefer. So I think that getting the opportunity to play internationally in Europe specifically has been really, really good for me to grow just the way that I see the game and help me really think about where I thrive, how I thrive, and the types of like offenses and defenses I really like to run. Yeah, I think that's, I don't know if that answered the question. I feel like I talked for a long time though.
No, that was good. Yeah, that's super interesting. I didn't even think about like international play, that like how that totally changes the game itself. That's really cool.
Yeah. I'm very thankful for that, for the experience that I've gotten to have between national teams and then playing with Yaka, which is the women's club team that I sometimes play with just outside of Paris. So then I'm actually this year I'm an assistant coach for the Irish mixed national team for the European Championships. So getting to like learn a whole new set of players, different strategies, and then also like get to push push the team a little bit strategically. I'm also getting to do like more one-on-one skills coaching because that's something I can do, you know, abroad, you know, several hours away. So that's been really fun to push me as a coach because I don't typically get to do that. I feel like when I've coached, I was doing more like the big picture, like macro field, you know, level line management stuff. So I feel like other coaches that I've coached with have gotten to dive into that individual skills coaching. And it's really fun to do that with national team level athletes who are really serious about their training, ask phenomenal questions. And it's a really cool exchange to go back and forth.
That's sick. I feel like we need a second to process how much like you're just like spouting at us right now. This is crazy. Like there is no way to like understate how impressive it is to us, or overstate, I should say, so not understate, that you're just dropping like we have a list on this doc of like questions and stuff of some of the things you've done. That is so cool that you like are coaching a team in Ireland from California while playing in Minnesota. Is this all at the same time? Like what is like your year-to-year breakdown? Like what are the seasons for these different leagues you're in?
I don't know if I heard the whole question because my dog was barking at an Amazon delivery driver, but I think I heard enough of it to answer. So the season breakdown, I think like when it comes to, I think it's easy for me to like differentiate between like the US club season and then the other opportunities, because the US club season is the same every year. It, you know, runs roughly, you know, May, or now that I'm out here, it starts way earlier. Like I'm already doing tryouts out here just for a team to practice with. But like the club season, the competitions run July through October every year. And so like the PUL or the WUL, it's kind of like a January to June. So the front end of that. And then this coaching experience, obviously, like it was definitely something I wasn't planning for when the opportunity presented itself. I had been playing, in Europe a few years, essentially starting in 2018, took a break during COVID like everyone else, but have been trying to go at least once or twice a year since then. And so just kind of making those connections and having that opportunity was like, I think that it'll be a really good opportunity for me to push myself in the coaching realm, just because knowing that my life was maybe going to be in transition, that it would be a good way to like continue to engage in strategy talks and those high level things that I wasn't sure like necessarily where I'd end up or what my playing season would necessarily look like. But I knew that I could like push me and keep me engaged, like my brain engaged, no matter where I ended up, at the end of the day with the job and all that stuff. And honestly, like training wise, like my off-season training starts, November, like beginning of November. Runs, I'm just wrapping up my like off-season like lifting cycles and stuff, and we'll be heading into more of like an in-season. Like I try to do like I've been lifting and doing like the programming with Strive and Uplift since 2018. And so I try to do like 2 in-season cycles from, April, like mid-April to the end of the club season. So trying to go through that strength and conditioning programming at least twice for in-season stuff. And honestly, like this sounds like, I think that stepping away from Ultimate and having to work a lot during COVID really helped me find ways to like find joy in movement that has nothing to do with training for Ultimate. And I think that because I've been able to do a much better job of that and have some like balance, I don't know if people would think that what I'm doing is balanced, but I find that I have more, extracurricular non-Frisbee things in my life, which has brought a lot of joy. And I think it helps sustain that intense focus and energy and drive to be a year-round thing. But I think before COVID, I didn't have that. And there were definitely times where I would feel burnt out. But I think now I found a little bit more balance and found some more gentle ways to be active where it's really just moving for the sake of moving and has nothing to do with on-field performance. So I think that helps a lot as well. But it does take a lot of meticulous planning, I think, to make sure that I'm hitting all of the metrics and goals that I have, and then also meeting all of the commitments for my various teams that I'm involved in. So thank God I'm a planner by nature.
I bet you're very organized. You sound like very meticulous.
In some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. But the ways that I need to be, I definitely am. So, yeah.
Go for it.
All right, awesome. So Robyn, we've been hearing a lot from you, but I want to move towards like these more rapid fire questions that we have. We have about 8 like rapid fire questions, just some quick fun questions for you. So like, who's your favorite Ultimate player of all time?
Miranda Ralph.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite sport that isn't Ultimate?
Team handball.
Ooh, okay. It's your go-to relaxation show.
Oh shit. Don't watch a lot of TV. I feel like I just watch sports. If I could watch the WNBA, that's like my go-to. Just what I watch in general. I watch a lot of basketball.
Nice. Okay. What's your favorite throw?
Hammer.
Perfect. What's your preferred pizza topping or toppings, like combos?
Cheese.
And straight cheese?
I mean, that doesn't mean I just have to have one kind of cheese. I could have lots of cheeses.
That's true.
That's fair. That's fair.
I have a adjacent question to that. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Depends on the other toppings, but I'll say yes.
Okay, you're a good person. All right.
Yeah. Respect.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
We here at Winchell Talk fully endorse and support pineapple on pizza. That's our official stance on this.
Yeah, I feel like especially if you have like something kind of spicy or like salty, like if you got a good salty meat, like or something spicy or both, like pineapple's a good addition. But like I'm not gonna like if it's like some pizza that's got like arugula and prosciutto and something or tomatoes or something, I probably wouldn't. but there's definitely a time and a place for just about any pizza topping. You could talk me into any pizza topping, I'd be into it.
Here's my pizza order: barbecue sauce, pineapple, banana peppers, chicken and bacon.
I like that you put the pineapple under the chicken and the bacon. That's like, I feel like usually it goes on top. And that's why people are like, sometimes pineapple can be really strongly flavored, but if you put it below the salty foods, I think that would make a huge difference.
And the order I listed them was intentional and totally not just accidental.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I don't necessarily have an order of how I put them on, but yeah. But yeah, it's the sweet and salty combo. Like you're absolutely right. Like
absolutely.
yeah.
That's perfect. I actually used to work at a pizza place for many years, like 3. And I always did like pineapple and green olive. So it's pretty
Still
good.
think
It's
it
pretty
needs
good.
it needs like a meat though in there too. Like I definitely would be pro green olives and pineapple, but I definitely also want a meat.
I think that's why ham is often tossed on there, because ham is one of the saltier meats, I feel like.
Yeah,
And so
I
it
would
definitely
agree.
is a good combo.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the rapid fire questions that we
Yeah, moving
Now
away
that
from
we
pizza
totally
toppings.
That's
interrupted
the actual
rapid
interview.
fire. Yeah, we interrupted everything to talk about pizzas, but that's fine. It's an important topic.
The next one is, do you have any hidden talents and any hidden talents that you'd like to share with us?
I'm really good at like identifying world flags. I don't know. That's it's random. I don't know what else I'm good at. I don't know.
Dang. I wish
That's
we
pretty
knew
cool.
that because we would have just had a bunch of
Had
world
like
flags
a
ready to go.
PowerPoint. Yeah, a
Yes.
PowerPoint.
Yeah.
where, like,
100%.
list
I
all
would have
these
put that
flags.
together and done like
Yeah.
a little trivia. Like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
Next time you're on, we'll have a mid-season interview when the strike are undefeated. I'll be like catching up with Robyn. We'll just do like a little quick, like that'll be your stall 10 question. It'll
Okay,
be, can you
great.
get these 10 flags in under 10 seconds?
That sounds great. I'm into
That'd
that.
be insane.
I feel like it's going to depend on how fast you can share your screen and click through them. Like I think there's a couple other variables. You could it can be a really slow. It'll be a legitimate slow 10-second stall count.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of time in the Midwest, and we're all from Minnesota. Do you call it hot dish or casserole?
Are they the same? I feel like hot dish and casserole aren't the same thing. I feel like casseroles are like anything that's kind of like, it's got to be, it's in the casserole dish. Hot dish to me is like a type of casserole, and usually it's topped with tater tots, isn't it? Like every time I've had like some variation of a hot dish, someone's like, let's put tater tots on top. It's like I see them as different things. Like casserole is like an all-encompassing thing in a casserole like dish, but to me, hot dish is like, it's different. Is that not true?
I think that's technically true, but it's hot dish.
I acknowledge that there is a thing that is a hot dish, but it maybe is different than casseroles.
I respect that answer. Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
I've never had like that kind of answer. Everyone's always so polarizing about it.
That was
like
way more eloquent and middle of the road than I've ever heard before.
I'm a true Midwesterner. I don't want to take sides.
I respect that.
Okay.
Oh, no, who added this last one? But
I did. I love this
Okay.
question. Robyn, what's your biggest fear? It can be serious.
Do you want to know my biggest fear? So like there's realistic fears, and then there's like unrealistic fears. I'll tell you my unrealistic fear is suffocating in hot volcanic ash. We learned about Pompeii when I was like in 3rd grade, and that's been like the scariest thing that I could possibly imagine. Not that that's like the likelihood of that happening is very, very low. I feel like my more realistic fear, and this is maybe more of an insight to like my emergency management career path, but I have a real fear of being stuck on a bridge or in a tunnel when there's like an accident that involves a hazardous material spill, and just having to like, I can't do anything. I can't leave, or like I don't know. That's like something that really could happen. So, yeah.
hazmat is terrifying.
Yeah, and like you're in like a tunnel or a bridge, so you can't like leave. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah, like a pile up kind of situation. That's what I'm talking. Like that's I think my biggest fear is that, or like there's also like the fear of like, oh, not reaching my potential or something, or like living a really unsatisfying life. That could be a good fear. I don't know. Now I'm just talking about fears. It's also like once I started listing them, I was like, wow, there's actually a lot of fears that I have. I don't know what the biggest one is.
We don't have to get into the existential dread crisis
right.
yet. Like,
maybe that didn't come with my calendar invite that it was going to be like a topic was existentialism or anything.
We're gonna talk about Frisbee and death on this podcast. That's
maybe episode 2. We'll see. We'll check in.
Right.
Flags and death.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like I said, we had a bunch of Instagram questions. These are fan submitted. And so yeah, we just kind of want to go through them and hear what you have to say. So first one here is, if you could swap out one rule of the game, what would you change it to and why?
I really like the 7-second stall count. I really would change it. Like, especially like, I don't think I would have it for like kids be maybe that fast, but like I like it for like the higher levels of club and the pro. Like, I think ultimately people are playing with 7 seconds of a stall count anyways. And then I would rather have it in the pro setting to have the officials like stalling it. That's not the case in the PUL. So like the PUL didn't go to a 7-second stall count this year. I just think it would help speed up the game a bit. Yeah, I think that would be my preferred rule change. And if we could like institute like a 2-point line, I'd be super into that too.
I've seen a lot of.
I don't have to swap anything out though for that one, because I would just add it. I don't think I would want to change anything else.
Interesting. Where would you put the 2-point line? Because like, so the AUDL did that in the All-Star game last year, and like the score just inflated like that. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, but there's no defense in the AUDL All-Star game either. Like,
that's true.
So, like, I think if it's a meaningful game, honestly, like I know that the AUDL is experimenting with some out of bounds pull rules and stuff. I think if you would have just put if you instituted a similar rule to like WFDF, so like international Frisbee, like you can choose to take the pull like where it goes out of bounds or at the brick, and essentially just put the 2-point line at the brick, so that if you pull out of bounds, you're giving someone the opportunity to get 2 points. Right? Like, I think that would
makes
be great.
sense.
That would be a great rule to just do. And during regular season games when teams are playing defense, like that's going to be a more impact. Like I take the score. I mean, I think the scores would definitely be higher if we instituted that rule, but I think that teams would also adjust defensively. But in the AGL All-Star game, there was very little defense. Unless someone's getting like a massive highlight worthy layout block, they're not, or a sky or something, they're not playing a lot of defense.
Yeah.
It's like watching the NBA All-Star game. It's like, why are we even keeping track of points? It's like, whose line is it anyway? Whose line is it anyways? Like, the points don't matter.
Dang, you kind of just sold me on the 2-point line.
I mean, I like it for Goldie, so I think I would like it for Frisbee too.
Right. That's super cool. I thought it was really cool. I was really excited about it when it was announced for the All-Star game. And then when I saw the score was like 24-42, I was like, okay, so clearly we shouldn't. But I guess, yeah, like rewatching like the highlight reels and stuff, you look at it. I mean, it's the All-Star game. It's just put on a big show of like fun Frisbee. So
yeah, and I think it's interesting too, because I like watching the AGL playoffs last year, like thinking about when New York was like kind of running out the clock in their semis game. And like taking like those massive backwards like reset dump throws and stuff. Like, I think that it would actually incentivize people using the whole field in different offensive settings, not just when they're trying to run out the clock. And I think that like that's the goal, I think, of a 2-point line, is like you want people to make the field bigger because you want to see some like one-on-one matchups, because I think that's going to produce the kind of ultimate that I think is exciting. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be like layout catches and terrible decisions to make like amazing plays or something, but you're going to make the field bigger and you're going to see players in one-on-one settings. And that's when I think you get to see players demonstrate like the type of athleticism that is their superpower when they're in one-on-one space.
So this is decidedly making the field smaller, but would you be a proponent of backcourt violation then? to kind of force them to keep moving up?
So I would totally like that during active play, but I think like if you put the 2-point line where someone could tap the disc in the middle of the field at the 2-point line, like pulls are going to get better. And if you have the backcourt violation thing, like it's going to initiate the offense a lot sooner. Yeah. I like that.
Cool. Kane, do you have a question or do you want to ask one?
Yeah, absolutely. So okay. The question that was submitted on Instagram literally just says Scooter Hammer Thumber.
Oh, I think it was Scoober Hammer.
I think it's supposed to be Scoober. Okay, that's what I wrote, but I want to make sure.
And I would go hammer. Yeah, 10. Like I guess like if we're talking short range, I'd probably like my Scoober's better than my Thumber, but I've been working on it. I like it for Goalty a lot, but my hammer is definitely the best out of all three of those throws.
Yeah. Hammers are so much fun. I love it. It's I think I can confidently say it's all of our three favorite throw. All three of ours. Yeah. I mean, we even have a disc. The three of us like share discs, and one of them just says hammer, yes, or definitely. It's like
that's awesome.
Best throw.
Yeah, there's one choice.
During tryouts, we were doing like buzzer beater scenarios, and like my team we turned it over, and then we got the turn back, and then we had like a couple of seconds left or whatever, and I like looked at the clock, and like my response was I just threw Byers like a 50-yard hammer because it was the easiest way to get her the disc without having to like try to break my mark or put something up that would let somebody else catch up to it. And like everyone was going nuts. I'm like, everyone should have 50-yard hammers. It's fine. Like,
do you think it's because you were a catcher though? Like,
oh, absolutely. The hammer was definitely my most confident, like the first throw that I felt super confident in. And like my college captains were like, hey, so we're going to make a rule for you that you can't throw hammers in games until you have confidently learned how to throw a flick. And like at the time I was like, oh, they're just like trying to kill my fun. But then I realized, oh, because it has the same grip, it's actually just great. They're just like essentially teaching me that if I have a flick grip, I can just really easily use a hammer. So yeah, I think that's why like that grip is definitely my preferred grip to throw in, because if I can't throw a flick, I can, put a hammer out to the break side. Like it's great.
Absolutely. As someone who was also a catcher in baseball, like not softball, baseball, but so similar enough. Yeah, hammers are my go-to now. It is best throw, and I had a similar experience with my like coaching staff, the president of my Frisbee club, and they were like, "Hey, you guys are throwing so many hammers." And I'm like, "You guys gotta start catching them. That's not on me. That's
right." Yeah. I also think too that like I was explaining this to somebody, like the mechanics of throwing a hammer as a catcher, because like it's all about like using your core, like your throwing motion super compact and super efficient, whereas like compared to like an outfielder, it's like this big loopy full body thing that it's like being able to get a hammer off quickly and precisely. It's like I'm so happy that was what my skill set was versus trying to make my throw a lot more compact, because like I feel like I get so much power from being able to like utilize the same throwing mechanics.
Okay, here's a question that I wish I had read this article. It says, a while back, you wrote an article about D-line swagger. Is there anything new or different you'd say now?
I think that like part of that exercise, like I think that was really just like everybody should find the thing that is their superpower. And I think it was coming from the lens of playing on the D line on Dragon in 2014 at Worlds, and a conversation that I had with one of my teammates, like in between games. And honestly, like thinking about how like players, I think, focus so much on their weaknesses and like trying to get better that they don't, come into their own and like really appreciate the strengths that they have and how they can maximize that for a team. I do think that that's something that the pro game does help push, is that you have players who maybe their role is like, it's a very specific thing, but it's built off of their strength. Versus like in a club team where you have to have a bigger roster, you're, planning for lots of different scenarios. A lot of times it's like you're thinking about how to limit your weaknesses against an opponent. And I think the pro game does kind of push that narrative a little bit more. Does anything change? No, I think everybody should find the thing that makes them confident, that makes them feel strong and empowered. and that they should really feel comfortable owning that. I also think there's been like a lot of conversation around equity in terms of having non-male players like have a lot more swagger in our sport and just sports culture in general. For those of you who watched the women's Final Four in the basketball, like getting to see some of the, I would say the most swaggy like female athletes on the planet right now. We're probably getting paid the highest amounts of money relative to like professionals because their NIL deals are wild. But like getting to see that and like have that take, front stage, I think is like, it's pretty impactful and cool. So I don't think a whole lot has changed. I think I'm probably better at being able to point to the things I'm good at now than I was in 2014. But I think that comes with playing more and being older and just being comfortable with myself.
Sure. That's awesome. So we actually had another question submitted on Instagram that kind of transitions nicely from that. They want to know, how do we foster the growth of professional women's sports and mixed gender sports?
Quite frankly, I think it starts with having more non-male role models for younger athletes so that, they're socialized to see female, non-binary, trans athletes like in positions of power, being the ones dictating strategy, coaching, like being seen skillful and knowledgeable and badass in those leaders, because I think that changes how people value the media they consume later. So what I think like it starts first with having more female, non-binary and trans coaches in youth sports, and then having more male assistant coaches, like seeing what it's like for people that they're used to being in positions of power actually supporting and reinforcing what these other voices that have been more marginalized. So I think that that's important. I also think that having more media coverage is immensely helpful. A lot of the stats are coming out from the women's Final Four this year. Honestly, the entire women's NCAA tournament had better broadcast slots, better channels, and they're seeing that actually people do want to consume this stuff. It's not just, oh, no one wants to watch it. Well, was it that no one wants to watch it or that you didn't give people a chance to watch it? So I think that increasing that, like the coverage and the access to that coverage, making it easier for people to see is a huge component of it. And then just valuing the different skills or like a wider variety of skills and types of athleticism. I think that American sports culture really does value American football like as like the highest echelon of sport. And it'll like if you go to other countries, that's not necessarily the number one sport that they consume. Like I know like handball is really big in some European countries, and like in some countries, women's handball is more like gets more coverage than men's handball does. Or like I think it's really interesting that like when you go outside of the US and you don't look at American football as like the end all be all for athleticism and sports, that you get a little bit better, at least more balanced coverage in a certain sense. Like in a lot of, quite frankly, I think we've just prop up our sports culture so much higher than it needs to be. But I think that like once we get away from American football being the end all be all and like showing that there's other sports that can provide different qualities of athleticism or like allow people with different qualities of athleticism to shine. That's actually something that I wrote about once. Was about the thing I like about Ultimate is that there really is a role for every type of athlete and teammate, because the field is so big and we're outside and a disc flight is very different than the way balls move and stuff. Like you can have an offense that's designed for short, fast people. You can have an offense that's designed for tall, slower, but can jump people. You can have people who are really skilled, competing with teams that, are more fast and athletic than them. Like, I think there's just so many different variables that you get to really capitalize on different types of athleticism and in ways that you don't in other sports. So I think the world just needs more Frisbee too.
Yeah, that's a good answer. So kind of not related, I guess, but what you had said kind of reminded me of seeing your Instagram and just like you've been posting a lot about like your end zone celebrations and stuff. Like can you talk to us more about that and just like how that is even very visibly like empowering the celebration and being a badass like woman after you succeed on the field?
Um, I just think that for the longest time, I was told that like spiking was bad. Like, I think it's not great to spike it on people. Like, I don't think that people should be throwing anything at anybody like at close range like that. Like, you could hurt somebody, maybe not as much of the disc, but I mean, like if you do the any other ball or implement, like you shouldn't be doing that. But like I think honestly, like getting more into the WNBA and like women's college basketball and seeing that there's like a lot more trash talk and a lot more celebrating, like it, like when I watch that, I feel excited. I feel like I'm ready to go dunk on somebody, right? Like I'm ready to go to go do something. So I feel like if athletes just celebrated more, your team dynamics going to be more fun. You're going to enjoy it. And like, honestly, like, I don't think like as an opponent, if someone spikes and like gets really amped and has an awesome celebration, I'm like, I'm ready to go. Like, let's turn it on. Like, I'm coming back at you. Like, I think it just elevates the game and it elevates the competition. It gets people in the zone. Like, I just don't see like a drawback from it. And I think it's important that people celebrate their teammates and how awesome they are. I think everyone could handle more celebration in their life. And that's kind of a path that I've chosen since coming back after COVID, is that like, I didn't play for like a year, just like everybody else did, or a year and a half or whatever. And like, why should I not enjoy my time with my teammates? Like, I'm here having fun. We're all working hard. Like, let's have some fun. So
Absolutely. One of my favorite things about sports, especially Frisbee, because there's a lot you can do with it, is just seeing like the celebrations after a point. What can us three as fans, because we're gonna try and get to every strike game at home this year. That's kind of my goal for the summer. What can we expect as far as team celebrations and individual celebrations from you?
honestly, when I was at practice, I just try to like get people to just like, I was actually just asking people to kick spike it because they were like, well, how should I spike it? How should I celebrate? I'm like, here, just kick spike it. It's fun, whatever. And people, I think even that, like, I think there's a lot of players in the Midwest in particular. And I don't know if this is a Midwestern values thing where it's like, we don't want to make people feel uncomfortable or anything. Like, a lot of my teammates, because they've been there before, they're like, oh, I've been here before, I don't need to celebrate. It's like, yeah, and yeah, you've been here before, and like get your teammates hyped that you've been here before. And in fact, I'd like to see you do it again another 5 times this game or this practice. Like, I don't know, I've been just trying to get people to celebrate. So I think that I'm hoping that we'll see some spikes. I think some people, you'll like, I know like Alicia Carr's like go-to is like to throw the just like throw the disc up. Like that's her celebration. And yeah, I think you'll see some celebrations. I'm also like all about like chest bumps, high fives, handshakes, all of that kind of stuff. So we got some games to lay those out as well. I also just like rushing the field, cheering, like that kind of stuff. So I'm definitely like an exuberant celebration person. I'm not like I'm like here to like kick your ass kind of person, but I'm totally for people if that's what they like to do to celebrate. It's not my cup of tea, but I'm like an exuberant, joyful person and kind of goofy. So that'll be probably the types of celebrations you'll see from me. Now I have to practice them because they have to be good. I don't score a whole lot though. Like, that's the problem as a thrower. You don't get to celebrate a whole lot. You don't get to do a lot of spikes because you don't score.
All right, so I'm currently transitioning to being a full-time handler for my Frisbee team. And my kind of go-to now is to pull out the bow after
Oh
you
yeah.
after you get an assist. You can
Mhm.
use that.
There definitely should be more like duo celebrations because yeah, like the handler is doing as much work, right? Like
You gotta celebrate those throws. Whenever you got them up, just pull some fun out.
Yeah, so I played on like, so in Madison, like summer league is like a really big thing. You get to sign up as a team, like with your friends. And so my team, we always dress in costumes or have like themes. And so they'll like one of our favorite like annual themes is like WWE wrestling night. And so the person who throws the assist and the person who scores, they have to like, the person who throws the assist gets to pin the person who scores. So like that's always been fun. And then we have like one of my teammates would always like dress up as a referee. So she would be there just like, counting down the 3 count. Yeah. So
That's awesome. That's so goofy.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying we have a semi-related question to Summer League from Instagram. One asks, "What's your favorite Summer League team?" They give a hint. It rhymes with fry larder.
It's the tryhards. So we named our team like, so we're like a bunch of people who do really like to try hard but also really have fun. So our franchise, if you will, used the Die Hard series, but we would use Try Hard instead of Die Hard. So we have, Try Hard with a Vengeance, Try Hard 2, Try Harder, Live Free, Try Hard, A Good Day to Try Hard. Like, there was a lot that we could work with. We actually ran out of Die Hard movies last year, so we were like, man, what do we do? Like, and then I ended up moving away, and I think there's people who aren't going to play Summer League this year from that group. So I think it's time. It'll be another rebranding, different thing, but yeah, the tryhards were definitely my favorite forever.
It's hilarious. I love Ultimate. Okay, here's a question that might need some context. How does one chunk, also so proud of you, and this it says from Mark.
So last year on Noise, we had I don't know if it's, so we name all of our lines after sounds. And one of our D lines last year was named Chonk. I think that Fran meant to write honk, but there was like a line on the dry erase board, so they became Chonk. And so I don't know, Chonk became this like motto for being like super goofy, weird, and like it's supposed to be honk, but it's not, like and I think it was like it turned into like our fun cheer. Like we cheered Chonk, and like we had like a whole like song and dance that went with it. Like our chonking cheer was definitely like our go-to cheer. And we also obviously cheered for Chonk the line. So we brought that one out a lot, but I think it's really just, you have to be unabashedly be yourself. To answer the question, how do you chonk? You have to be like unabashedly yourself, and you have to like be willing to look like an absolute idiot. Like, people are going to judge you for like doing a crazy song and dance while spelling the word chonk and then chonking and dancing to it. And so you just lean into it. You're just like, this is who I am, and I'm a weirdo, and just go for it. So I think that's the secret to chonking for sure.
We have a question here from Instagram. And it says, any good Dylan DeClerc stories?
Any good Dylan DeClerc stories? Yeah, I really feel like my favorite Dylan moment was, so at like anytime that Noise plays CLX, Fran Kelly would like, I have no idea. This is from Noise lore pre when I joined the team. I mean, the Noise was a team since like 2009 or 2008. And like, he would drink from a bottle of syrup, and just he'd be dumping it all over his face. Again, I don't know. And Fran did not play the series with us last year. And so we played CLX at regionals. And Dylan just shows up like, and he's just like wearing like a wrestling singlet, and he just like takes off of his jersey. He's wearing a wrestling singlet, and he just like guzzling syrup. And it was everything that our team needed. And I mean, I respect the hell out of Dylan. That just like, it took it to like this whole other level. Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite Dylan DeClerc. And my second favorite Dylan DeClerc story would be before World. So we did this, me and one of my teammates wanted to get our team, like get Noise into wrestling culture, like WWE, because he's also on my summer league team. And so we made these like wrestling belts that got awarded after every practice or game or at day at tournaments and stuff. And so Dylan got it the practice before Worlds, and he sends like this video to us about like, it starts out like he didn't think he was going to be able to go to the tournament. And then it was like, no, he's going to win the tournament. And he like, it turned into like this amazing like WWE wrestling call out style video. And like, but I think half of our team, when we watched it, we were just like, oh my God, Dylan's not coming to Worlds. Like, what the hell? And he like got us so bad. Like, some of us, I'm very gullible though too. So maybe other people knew that he wasn't serious, but I definitely was nervous. And then totally fell for it. And it was, again, like Dylan always comes in with like really endearing, very big gestures, but in very unexpected times and ways. And I really appreciate that.
That's cute. I like that. The syrup bot, like that is nasty. Like that grosses me out. I feel like I need to take a shower just hearing about that.
Yeah, he smelled like syrup like all day. I'm not gonna lie. It was pretty intense.
It's a strategy. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
right?
thing.
All right, so we're gonna refer to him as Mr. Maple from now on, right?
I mean, you can do what
Absolutely.
you want. I don't know if he's gonna like it.
All right. I have one of the
go
questions
ahead.
here that I was confused about.
Mhm.
They just said, what's your favorite brand of cigarette?
Well, Noise last year, we did this whole bit with fake cigarettes at nationals last year. Yeah, I mean, I've actually never smoked an actual cigarette before, so I can't say. So I'm gonna say the Noise brand cigarettes, that whatever were provided to me as the fake cigarettes that I received before semis last year was definitely
Sure.
my favorite brand.
Okay. We were
I
all
don't have
confused.
brand
We're
loyalty
like,
beyond that though.
before the interview, we're all just like, we were all talking about that question in particular. We're like, I feel like she's way too active to even have time to smoke cigarettes,
Here,
much
wait,
less.
hold on a
to
second.
take over.
I'm getting something off of my refrigerator.
Oh boy,
Excellent.
this is gonna be great. Bringing
Here,
props in.
this is my favorite photo from a Frisbee tournament. It's of me pretending to light a fake cigarette before semifinals.
Amazing.
Oh my
I've
gosh.
never lit a cigarette. I've never smoked one. I thought that was a pretty realistic looking like bit, right? Like,
Yeah,
It looks real to me.
yeah,
I could be
yeah. I
convinced.
mean, like
All right.
when we were playing, like if you watch like footage of Noise playing semis and finals, like you're probably gonna see that people have like fakes, or they have cigarettes like tucked in their headbands or behind their ears. They're fake, I swear. But it was pretty funny. I don't know, like it was just a joke. I don't know.
That's
We
awesome.
have a lot of props on Noise. If that's not that's not clear, we've got a lot of props.
Right. That's
That's
awesome.
awesome. Oh, all right, I'll ask another question. It's like just, so what's your favorite non-Frisbee hobby? Not necessarily sport, but like non-Frisbee hobby in general.
I really like weightlifting. Just because like I've been doing weightlifting for like since I was like in eighth, like the summer between eighth and ninth grade. And I really like I really like feeling strong, and I like pushing my limits. Apparently also likes it. But yeah, no, I really like weightlifting. I like feeling pretty strong and empowered. So
We're gonna let
Okay.
the dog have a little moment here. Yeah.
I want to know what kind of dog you have. Love to learn about your dog.
are we still recording right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we are.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Yeah, no, someone just got here because speaking of the weightlifting, I do have like a nice outdoor gym, and one of my friends is about to use it, and so Lily's gonna like go from aggressively barking to like getting very excited to see him. So
That's amazing.
he's all
We
of
could-
like 20 pounds. I'll show her when she stops jumping on him.
Cute.
I'll take this opportunity. I didn't get to earlier because the conversation kind of flowed in the wrong direction. Jane Cook, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on the podcast sometime. That'd be great. And Dylan DeClerc as well. Now that we mentioned him, get both of them on the podcast, please. That'd be great.
We've also dropped Alicia Carr. She's on the strike. Let's just get everyone. Yeah, everyone we've mentioned in this
We'll just cycle
episode.
every single strike player. Let's go. This is great.
Yeah.
And if you are at home or listening and wondering how you can come support the strike, you can go to the Minnesota Strike website right now and order tickets. I recommend getting the season tickets because you get each individual home game at a cheaper price than if you bought the tickets individually. This is not a sponsored message.
It could be though.
Could be. Hey,
Could
Strike,
be.
if you're listening, we'd love to have you on the podcast sometime. Give us some money or something. Send me here. All I'm asking for is one free jersey. Just send me a free jersey.
Whatever, man.
That's all I need.
Buy a jersey.
Exactly. You should buy a jersey. That's correct.
Yeah.
That's the correct
I'll
Yeah,
do it.
Kane.
I will do it right now while we're on the pod. You guys.
Okay, I'm trying to look at our question list. I think we've kind of hit everything. Do you guys have anything else? Yeah. Okay, sorry. I'm just like going through all our questions because we had a bunch and like all the Instagram questions. Yeah, Robyn, this has been great. We really enjoyed having you on. We really appreciated your insights, your funny answers, your serious answers. So glad we could have you on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a good way to get me out of work at a reasonable time. So I appreciate that. And I like talking about Frisbee. So hopefully I'll get to see the three of you at a home game.
Absolutely. And I'll be showing up in the black or the white one. Which one should I get, guys?
Okay,
I mean, the answer is the black one. The answer is
All
the black one.
I was leaning towards it. It looks really cool.
It's very cool.
That's cold. All right. And for all the listeners out there, a professional or Premier Ultimate League jersey ranking will be coming your way soon.
And the Minnesota Strike's obviously at the top, right?
This honestly is really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, just gonna wrap it up here. Robyn, do you have anything else you want to say? You want to ask us, or I mean, like I said, you've been a great guest.
Thanks. I don't have any questions for you all. I feel like I've talked for much too long, but I'm really thankful for the opportunity and excited to see y'all at a home game.
Definitely, yep. And yeah, like I said, for the listeners, the season starts in just a couple of weeks here. The Strike have a couple games on the road to start, so I think their first home game is in May, but they're at Seafoam Stadium too this year. So definitely looking forward to coming out supporting them. You can follow us and the Strike on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. We've got a lot of exciting content coming out. The Strike, again, their season is just in a couple weeks away. So we definitely hope you follow us, subscribe to our content, and follow the Strike. And we also want to just say that this episode is presented by the R1P1 Network. Again, they're doing this great social media content for us, making all the YouTube thumbnails and all the graphic design for us now. So again, want to shout out them. They've been great for us. And also a guest star of Robyn's dog.
This is Lily, the responsible party for all of that aggressive dog barking that you heard earlier. All 20 pounds of her was.
We love to see it.
Yeah.
Oh, so she is super cute.
I know. Cute. Doesn't really match that bark, does it?
Yeah, right.
That's great.
All right. Well, with that, everyone, thanks for listening, and don't forget to stay chilly.